What David did was 3 major innovations that would forever change human history. The first is introduction of a patron god named Yahweh. Okay, so what David says, like, Yahweh is our God. And our God is better than the other gods. Okay? So what the Bible's trying to do is trying to explain who Yahweh is and try to explain to everyone that Yahweh is a better God, a superior God than every other God that came before him. Okay? That's number 1. Number 2 is the centralization of religion for a temple. So what David says is, okay, if Yahweh is our God and he's the best God, we need a house for him. So what we're going to do is we're going to build a temple in Jerusalem, and that's where he will live from now on. And by doing this, what David's really doing is centralizing the religion. When you do that, you give jobs to Egyptian priests, who will now be your main political ally. Okay? All right? And the third thing that he did, that's very important, of course, is sponsor, initiate the Bible. All right? Okay? So that's where the Bible comes from. The Bible comes from the fact that the Israelite people need to create mythology that explains why they are one family and why they're different from others and why they're actually better than other people. Okay? So what is amazing about the Bible is that it does succeed. It succeeds because of the great storytelling within the Bible. Okay? So in the beginning, we have the origins of Yahweh. And the Bible begins with Genesis. The first book of the Bible is called Genesis, which just means birth, or the beginning. Okay? And in the beginning, God creates the universe. And then he discovers that he's lonely. There's no one to talk to. It's not very interesting. So he creates man, Adam. But then he thinks that Adam might be lonely as well. So he creates Eve. Okay? And that's the beginning. So then the Lord God formed man from the dust of the ground. Okay? Dust. So man is made of dust. And breathed in his nostrils the breath of life, and then man became a living being. Okay? So God's essence is in Adam. And the Lord God planted a garden in Eden in the east, and there he put the man whom he had formed. Out of the ground the Lord God made to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for food, the tree of life also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. So this is garden, paradise, called Eden. And man was created in order to farm it, to take care of it, okay? He's basically a servant, a slave. And in the center of the garden are 2 trees. The tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. The tree of life, as you can imagine, grants immortality, right? The tree of the knowledge of good and evil grants the ability to learn. Okay, so let me explain. Let's imagine that there's this wall in front of me. Okay? So I walk, I hit the wall, it hurts, right? But I don't know that hurting is bad. So I keep on, I keep on hitting the wall and I keep on hurting myself, okay? Because I don't know what's good and what's bad. But now if I know what is good and what is bad, I know, okay, I should not hit the wall. Okay? I now have the capacity to learn. And over a lifetime, I will learn a lot. This is the secret of creativity, right? What's really important about this idea is that you need to make a mistake for you to know what is good and evil. Okay? So that's why school is stupid. Because school, we tell you, there's a wall, don't touch it, because you will hurt yourself. And you don't touch it, you don't hurt yourself, but you never learn for yourself. Because when you hit the wall, you now are able to reflect and understand how the world works. Okay? So the secret to creativity is trying for yourself and learning for yourself what is good and evil. And what this is also saying is that these 2 things together, creativity plus immortality, allows you to become God. Okay? Does that make sense? Because if you can live forever, but you're always learning, eventually you will absorb all the knowledge of the universe, which is what God is. Okay? God knows everything in the universe. And you can also argue that's why he created us. Because once you are perfection, once you learn everything, you're no longer capable of making mistakes, of learning for yourself. So what you do is you teach students, or you get students to learn for themselves, and that way your knowledge expands. Okay? So it's a really important idea is that men and women were created to be part of the creative process. Okay? That's why God created us. The Lord God took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to till it and keep it. Okay? So again, the man now is basically a servant or slave. And the Lord God commanded the man, you may freely, okay, you can do whatever you want. Okay, this idea of free choice. So if you want people to be creative, you have to give people free choice. Okay? You have to give people the capacity to make mistakes for themselves. Otherwise, they'll never learn for themselves. But of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, you shall not eat. From the day that you eat of it, you shall die. Okay? Now, what's amazing about the Bible is that it is poetry. Like all poetry, its meaning is very complicated. Okay, there's multiple layers to the meaning here. So, you shall die could mean, okay, the food is poisonous. Okay? Don't eat the apple. It's not the apple. Don't eat the fruit because you'll eat it. It'll be poisonous and then you'll die. Okay? But it's also could be interpreted as a punishment, right? If you eat it, I will have to kill you. Okay? All right. So this is a very ambiguous story. And that's what makes the story so amazing, because it is uncertain to us what the true meaning of the Bible is, and therefore we have to keep on thinking about it, discussing it, and finding out for ourselves. And at different stages of our lives, our understanding may be different. Okay? What's also interesting is that God draws attention to one tree, but not the other. That's kind of weird, right? There are two trees, the tree of immortality and the tree of learning, but God only says, hey, there's a tree of learning, don't touch that. Which means now that our attention is now focused on this one tree, right? So think of a metaphor. Let's just say that we go to the amusement park, okay? You're my kids, and I say to you, you can ride any ride you want in this amusement park, but there's a ride called the Dragon Roller Coaster. Do not ride that, or you will die. What do?
Ride that.
You ride that stupid thing, okay? So it's a really strange setup where God knows everything, but he draws our attention to the one thing that he's afraid of, and it's almost like he's pushing us towards that tree, okay? Because again, if you talk to children, you will know that if you warn them not to do something, they'll go and do it, okay? So what's going on here? Well, again, the nature of God is up for debate. You can say that God is being truthful and literal and says that if you touch that tree, you will die, okay? So he's being dishonest, basically, okay? That's one possibility. Another possibility is that he's just stupid. He doesn't really understand how humans work. He created humans, but he doesn't really understand what it means to be human. And he gave us free choice, so he doesn't really appreciate that we would disobey him, okay? That's another possibility. Now, another possibility, okay, which can also be true, is that it's all part of his plan, right? If he truly wants us to understand free choice, if he truly wants us to be creative, then he needs to allow us to make our own mistake. And so therefore, he's sort of like setting us up, okay? He's sort of like provoking us into making a mistake. All right? Does that make sense? So as you can see how it's only a few words, but it's so complex, and it's an entire universe onto itself. All right? Okay. All right. Now, this is a story of God creating woman, okay, Eve. So the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall upon the man. The man is lonely and he wants a female companion, okay? And he slept, then he took one of his ribs and closed up his place with flesh. The rib that the Lord God had taken from the man he made into a woman and brought her to the man. The man said, "This at last is bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. This one should be called woman, for out of man this one was taken." Okay? Now, you could make the argument that man is superior because man came first. But you could also make the argument that woman is superior because woman is made of higher quality. Woman is made of flesh, right? Man is made out of dust. So this is almost revolutionary, the conception, because you would think that in this world, men are at the top. But this Bible is telling us, no, women are made of higher quality material. They're made of actual flesh, right? And that's why we think that the person who wrote this was actually a woman. And as you read the Bible more and more, you will discover this genius who wrote the Bible, who first wrote the Bible, was in fact a woman. And that's revolutionary, okay? All right, so